Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is the topic of why is America so successful as a nation? So for this video, I'm going to discuss the topic of why America is so successful as a nation. Even though there's different reasons why, there's actually one specific main reason why America is so successful as a nation, which if you're curious to know why it's so successful as a nation, this is going to be a good video for you, as well as something that from this video you can learn a life lesson that you can learn from. So now that I've mentioned that, let's get started. So first and foremost, when it comes to the topic of why is America so successful as a nation, it simply comes down to the fact that Americans buy a lot of things, okay? In other words, they have a lot of purchasing power, okay? Which means they have a lot of stuff that they buy because they have a lot of free time that they buy, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to the topic of why is America so successful, and not only why is it so successful, but why is it so ridiculously successful for such a long period of time, you know, and to the point that even Americans are complaining, like, will we ever actually lose our status as a world power? Because even Americans sometimes get sick of how long they've been a superpower for. They've easily been a superpower when it comes to not just superpower, but specifically number one world superpower for over 70 plus years now. You know, even they're complaining they're kind of getting tired of it. A lot of them, you know, are getting tired of it because it's just America, 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 America for everything. So even they get sick of the answer. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to the reason why they're so successful, even though, like I was saying before, there's several different reasons why, you know, they're so successful, you know, for that matter. But for that matter, to be quite honest, the main reason why they're so freaking successful is it simply comes down to the fact that it just, the truth of the matter is that they just have so much purchasing power. And the reason why they have purchasing power is because they have a lot of free time. Because the truth of the matter is, as I'm certain you and I are all aware, you know, anyone who's interested in like history of the world and like politics and all that type of stuff, you know, to summon up nations, civilizations, all that type of stuff, you know, for that matter, countries, you get the point, okay? And the truth of the matter is that everyone kind of has reached a point, if they've learned enough, where we have at least come to the conclusion of wondering, why is Asia not more successful than America, okay? When it comes to, of course, different Asian nations like Japan, obviously China, you know, and so forth, and even a few other ones in Asia, like you have Taiwan, you have Korea, even. Like, why aren't any other nations way more powerful than the United States? Specifically, of course, no shit, China and Japan, you know? Because they come from societies that not only are way smarter because they have a way higher demand for intellectual capabilities, you know, for that matter. And not only that, you know, they also have a workaholic society. So it's like, how are you going to compete against someone who, like, when you're doing like maybe something that, if you have a hard job where it's like 3 to 5 hours a day, maybe even if you're working a professional job for that matter, okay, like maybe in the government or something, you know, whether it could be the government or technology and this and that, while people in Asia, some of them are working 10 hours a day. And not only that, they have, guess what, so many people who are working that hard. You know, China easily has hundreds of millions of people that work very, very, very hard, you know, and are obviously very, very, very brilliant because they have a culture that's obsessed with education. So does Japan for the longest time. It easily had over 100 million people that work very, very, very hard. Where in America, to be quite blunt and honest with you, even though it has quite a sufficient amount of people, let's keep it real. The amount of people in America who work as hard as Asia, let's keep it real, you know, especially even for people in high positions for jobs that actually really genuinely matter, not your local silly retail store, whether it could be something related with technology, like putting people in outer space, or something that could relate to, of course, the government and this and that, and yada, 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 yada. You know, to be quite blunt and honest with you, the obvious question comes up, you know, because let's keep it real, the most amount of people in America who work that hard, if there's even close to that amount, maybe like 5, 10 million Because Americans are obsessed with having free time off. As I think everyone knows, let alone the West, but specifically, of course, America, which would make sense we're talking about that because that's the world's most powerful nation. So the question obviously becomes, if you have a nation that has like tens of millions of people, like in the case of Japan or China, hundreds of millions of people who work super duper hard, why isn't their nation a superpower? And the reason why is because they don't have a lot of free time, okay? And that's a simple truth. Because for a nation to become successful, it simply has to have a lot of buying power, okay? As the old saying goes, okay, to be quite blunt and honest with you, okay? To be honest with you, what's the purpose of producing a lot of things if there's no one there to buy it? And when it comes to Asia, it's no different, okay? Because most people in Asia, specifically China, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, specifically China, Japan, like, for that matter, okay? They might live very comfortable lives with a high degree of comfort and so on and so forth, but they don't really have much free time. Their whole life is centered around work. It's not even like just for schoolwork, which at least would make sense, which eventually I'll do a video where I discuss that in further detail, which I feel Japan should have did if they wanted to do a lot better, but that's a topic for another video, okay? But either way, like I was saying, why don't they just work super hard for school and not just work super duper hard for, obviously, why do they have to do not just school work, super duper hard? Why do they have to work super duper hard for their jobs or something, for that matter, okay? To be quite honest with you, because that is very true. And as a result of it being true, since they work so freaking hard, they don't have enough time to really buy things, okay? It's already been proven when you go to places like Asia, in nations in Asia, like specifically Japan, people there don't have much free time to do anything, for that matter, okay? Even when you look at, obviously, to be quite blunt and honest with you, obviously, the places where people go to have leisure time and so on and so forth, yada, 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 the truth of the matter is, when it comes to that topic, most of the people, it's already been proven, if you know a lot about Japan, but let alone Asia, for that matter, all the developed nations in Asia, most of the people who are the biggest buyers are people from the West, like America, Canada, UK, and so on and so forth, So the point I'm trying to make here is that they don't have nations that have a lot of time to really have people who purchase a lot, which as a result, since obviously money drives the economy, the more you purchase something, they've always stagnated and have never become superpower. Because when you look at it, to be quite blunt and honest with you, Japan, undeniably, if you look at it, should have been number one as a world superpower, okay? Everyone wonders why did they just stay at number two for all this time? And of course, everyone's going to bring up the 1980s bubble, but it's not even that alone. Like, every nation has financial recessions and so on and so forth. The reason why is because people don't have enough free time to really purchase enough money, okay? To purchase enough stuff, okay? And obviously, if people purchase stuff, more money goes to the economy, and more money means more money for building projects, more money for that can be used for technology, more ideas that could be used for obviously having a better quality government, military, yada yada yada, all the things the nation needs to be a superpower, because the people have so much money that they spend, okay? And that's the truth of the matter. Asia doesn't have that, okay? And the truth of the matter is, in Asia, let's just use Japan as a specific example, okay? They don't have that because the people there are so damn busy. That's why they have one of the highest suicide rates, the amount of people who die from overwork, exhaustion, and a lot of mental health issues. It's already been proven most people in Japan anyway, specifically the newer generation, are depressed anyway, not to mention they're not having children. But most importantly for this video, they're miserable because they have to work so freaking much, okay? And that is the truth of the matter, and that's why their nation is not getting anywhere when it comes to surpassing America. Because in all honesty, no matter how you look at it, they should have surpassed America. They just didn't surpass America because their people are so freaking busy, and that's the truth of the matter. So now, of course, since I've discussed that, the question obviously comes up is, what is the lesson to learn from this whole situation? The lesson to learn from this whole situation is simply the fact that working super duper duper hard does not necessarily guarantee success. Okay, specifically in this case, success of a nation. Okay, if the smartest thing to do is to have people who work super duper hard, but make that a small percentage of the population. Okay, instead of making a major portion of the population. Okay, to be quite blunt, honestly, as it is include like China, Korea, Taiwan and Japan, okay? That is the honest common sense truth, okay? But they never did that, and as a result, they haven't ever surpassed the United States because their people are so friggin' busy, okay? And as a result of being so busy, they don't have enough time to constantly purchase things, okay? And through constantly purchasing things, it helps develop a nation, okay? Because it helps stimulate money, and that's the honest truth, okay? So that's a lesson learned. Working nonstop does not guarantee success. What guarantees success is a good work life balance, okay? Specifically in the case of nations. And that's all I have to say. And so we put them out. Bye.